the nerves. This is for the brainiacs. This what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back. You ain't gonna touch me. You not gonna do nothing. You are not above me. I bet you wish you was me. I know it. I know.
Woo! What is poppin', everybody, and welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, I'm here with Tortuga.
We're here.
He really changed his intro of only pause for a dramatic amount of time, friends, to adding Tortuga to every bit.
That's fine.
Well, today
I actually appreciated that one more.
Yeah.
I like the hype, the fact that he was throwing up literally a minute before we got on air.
It's amazing. It, literally 2 minutes ago, he was like, I'm like, are you going to be able to do the pod? And then boom, you know,
just flips the switch,
the cameras
you know?
go on, the mics go on, and he's just on.
What it really was,
true professional.
We were talking about his salary and how he doesn't actually deserve it.
Yeah,
well, no, time out.
He thought that might get pulled, so he's like, I got to do something.
Yeah.
I did not think that. What I did think is, we got to talk about this, guys. You guys are underpaying me for this intro. This intro is top notch. Like, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, you guys think you guys have a chance? We have a chance at winning an award if it wasn't for this intro coming in?
A chance?
Well, considering that we got nominated before the intro started,
that is also true.
I would say yes, we do have a chance.
Did we get nominated?
I don't think so.
I have to tell you, I
so,
miss introducing the show. I enjoyed it a lot while you were gone. I think that, you know, a nice slow burn into the hype, you know, what's up, everybody? Welcome back.
I get text messages every single time I'm not here, man.
Yeah, because it's the only time you talk during the whole fucking show.
They say, yo.
You get 5 seconds at the beginning, and that's it.
We need the intro. Listen, I pop my shit, man.
I really wonder who we is, but it's not. That's for a different time.
That is for a different time.
It's the people.
The thing that I find...
Everybody but you.
The thing that I find so off-putting, I guess, about how Conrad communicates is he texts the group this morning and goes, I feel like shit, I'm throwing up, like all this stuff where it's like clear that he's sick. And it's like, all right, man, well, you know,
signs of sickness.
Take a day, you know, feel better.
Take a day off, mate.
Take a day off, mate. Feel better. You know, let's move forward. And then, like, as Landon and I are getting ready to leave, he's in the kitchen, looking like literal death had just come down and touched him in the forehead.
Yeah, that's never changed, though.
Said, you know, today is not your day, bro. And I'm like, you look awful. He's like, I just threw up. I'm like, okay, like, so get the fuck away from me. He's like, I'm not contagious. I'm like, what are you, a doctor? Like, how do you know? He goes, I'm hungover. It's like, well, at what point were you going to tell us that you just got drunk?
Well, he said that in the chat.
He didn't even say it that like, he wasn't even that frank about it, right? He goes, you wouldn't understand. I put substances in my body that you don't.
So it was funny because, like, I don't drink that much normally. I had 2 drinks yesterday. And, like, it's
enough.
Yeah.
2 drinks on an empty stomach?
Yeah, that was the problem, actually. It's the empty stomach part. Yeah. I was just all, you know, a little out of it. But we're here.
We're here.
I feel a little bit better. If I have to run off, I got to run off. You know, it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Hearing him retch is one of the most off-putting sounds I've ever heard in my entire life.
And now our community is going to hear it. Yeah.
It's not quiet. Like, you guys will absolutely get some background noise of a man dying in the bathroom.
You do the same thing, though, when you brush your teeth.
No, I don't. I cough. I literally cough.
Thank you, Landon. Thank you
I've
very
lived with him
fucking
too. I know
much. This guy's out of his fucking mind.
He
Delusional Berkey is back.
He gags himself with the fucking with the
First
toothbrush.
of all, how dare you? I do not have a gag reflex, okay?
Delusional
Berkey. Second of all, I do absolutely brush the back of my tongue. It's very important for fresh breath, and I do cough. I give it a kind of thing, where to the point where Tyler and Andy were convinced that I had a long-standing whooping cough for the better part of a decade. But
you do have a whoop, but not a whooping cough.
Correct. But I do not do what Conrad
You do
does.
the same exact fucking sound. Like, it's so...
I'm going to record it one of these days.
I'm going to record both of us. That's
fine.
That does not need to be recorded and put into the books of history. We don't need this shit.
Retching is the only way to describe it.
Away somewhere.
He's been fucking talking talking about this for like a year now.
It's the truest definition of the word retching. Like, if ever you want to hear the sound of what the definition of retching is,
put it in the Library of Congress.
You know how I was thinking about like leaving your mark on the world in the dents of the universe? This is the dent of the universe of Conrad. It's just the retching and vomiting in the bathroom.
It's the sound of retching and the sound of laughter just echoing through the halls. This is what he's contributed.
Some things
have
will never
you guys
go
not
away.
heard of tongue scrapers? Why aren't you guys using these?
Yeah.
I have
Because
not.
they
They
like
sell-
the
they've
feeling of
Not heard
vomit.
of tongue scrapers?
I mean, I know in a
Yeah, they
doctor's
sell like
office.
these really
sure.
nice copper
That's
tongue
a tongue
scrapers.
depressor.
Yeah. No, it's an actual tongue
That's
scraper.
what they
No,
put
but
dilly
he's
bars
thinking,
on.
Right, he's thinking of a tongue depressor.
That's what they put dilly bars
not a
on.
tongue scraper. It's literally meant to brush your tongue.
Yeah.
Okay, I stick that down my throat too.
Well, if it prevents the sounds of
Yes,
the
correct.
Dementors.
The truth of the matter
Dementors.
is, I don't have to cough. I choose to cough because it feels better. Like holding back,
I think
Not
it's-
great.
I think it's
There's a
gag
joke there, but I'm not going to.
go for it. I'm opening myself up. I literally just said I don't have a gag
Just stop.
reflex.
Let's move on.
Yo, my man Chalk in the chat. Today's about to turn into a pickleball conversation. We were going to talk poker, but now that Chalk's here, we're just going to talk straight pickleball strat. So,
All right, well, that's perfect. Because what did Chuck recently write to me? Berkey sucks at pickleball. Hold on.
I fucking buried him the other day. I'll have you know.
I gotta find this word for word.
But then I did play with him, and we were not good. We were not good. That's my tournament partner. We are probably 4-0s and can't win at 3-0. So we're a good marriage.
Calling yourself a 4-0 now, huh?
Yeah, this is cute.
I said we're probably 4-0s and can't win at 3-0. So you do the math.
3-5.
Can't win there either.
1-5.
Probably 4-0.
Can't
2-5.
win
2-5.
there either. Lamanna bagged some chips.
I did.
What does that mean for tomorrow's pod? You're not here?
No
Probably
podcast.
not going to be here, no.
Because I won't be here either. Also,
Why?
Uh-oh.
huh?
Why?
You think he's the only motherfucker bagging the 600?
Yeah.
You're out of your goddamn mind. Because it's me and Tortue.
All right. So
Yeah, we got some chips.
We gotta go early.
Who's we? Wait, you bagged too?
No,
Or you
we
didn't
as
even
in
play
like
yet.
me and,
Playing today.
the universe.
the universe, the powers
All
that be are going to have Conrad bag this tournament.
All the tortoises around the world.
There's
Shout
only
out
one-
to the
there's only one of
Galapagos
you.
Islands.
You and the Galapagos
Yeah.
show up at the Win 600.
It was good event. They
Good
got
event.
they got 300 people yesterday.
AKA Aces held.
Aces held. When aces hold and you get them multiple times, and then like other bad things don't happen to you, you bag a lot of chips.
Other bad things don't happen.
Well, because it's like it's funny because I don't even think I was in a race situation the entire day.
That's a nice lie.
Yeah,
No,
that's because you're not very fast.
That's true. No, I mean I was like I got it in a few times where I was a 70-30 favorite and I won like it was like 3 times.
That's
I
how
won
much
all
equity
3 of
he
them.
needs to be spotted in a race.
Exactly. Right.
That's a tortoise flip.
Obviously, no, things obviously went well, but like I was thinking that like the more you play, the more you study and get better. Like when you do run good, you can capitalize on that like so much better.
Yeah.
Like it's like because like I know like if this was a year ago or 2 years ago and I had the same card distribution, I wouldn't have ended with the same.
You would have
stack. I
folded
don't think-
aces?
No, but I definitely wouldn't have used the stack to my advantage. I probably would have opened tighter. I wouldn't have bluffed in certain spots. I wouldn't have played certain boards certain ways. So like all those things help. So it's like, yes, you do need to get fortunate to run up a big stack. You do need to be fortunate to win tournaments. But the better you are, the more you study, the better you play your hands. You give yourself a better opportunity when these.
Yo, he put the Salt for Y logo.
Yeah,
on
that
the
is
Twitter.
so
That's
dope.
amazing.
How did you do that?
That is
When did
so
you do
awesome.
this?
Papa, you're the
Little
best.
Photoshop.
Use
That was the
Photoshop.
coolest thing ever. I was like, oh
There's
my
a
god.
watermark on it.
Don't say anything.
Nobody needs to know about that.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they're like, "Yeah, I played with
Tortuga.
Brian. Well, I played with the tortoise all day, and we played a hand, and he got me. And I was like, he had aces. He's like, yeah, I had kings.
Wait, when was
It
this?
was just a different tournament. It
Oh,
wasn't this
so,
one.
yeah,
It
no.
wasn't this one. And I just looked at him. I was like, you watch the podcast every day, right? You know he has aces, right?
I ran a few bluffs yesterday.
You mean you slowly walked a few bluffs?
I did.
But that's the thing, though, when it comes to getting better and trying to implement new strategy, is there's going to naturally be growing pains that come along with that, where you might go for it too hard in a spot or not go for it hard enough in a spot, or try to use something that you think works in one spot but doesn't work in another. But that's just part of the game and getting better.
Yeah,
and
like,
you're never going to be perfect.
I definitely missed a few bluff spots, and like after like I didn't pull the trigger, and I'm like, that's like definitely a bluff there. Like, come on. But like that's, you're not going to play perfect. You're never going to play perfect. But like there were other spots where I did pull the trigger and it worked, and it was like, it feels so good. He's like, I have 9 high and I just winning this massive pot.
Did you flip it over like and say 9 high
Hell
like a
no.
boss?
I have an image to keep up.
I hate the 9 high like a boss thing.
I hate
Like-
where it came from.
Yeah.
The source.
All things Kasuf related, like, get under my skin for sure. He's a nice guy. I've actually like met him and played with him. He's like completely reasonable human. Just
Is he
like,
really?
yeah. Just those types of antics at the table just drain me.
Yeah.
It's like being an introvert getting thrown into a massive social situation where you feel like the utmost pressure to perform in some sort of way, and it just sucks the fucking life out of you because you can't turn it off. There's nothing you can do to make it stop. So like the gameplay crawls to a halt while he goes through all this speech play bullshit, and you're forced to just be subjected to it. It's like, please, it's not doing anything to me, at least. Like, make it stop.
I never played with him before, but
I played a sit and go with him like right after that.
That's
You definitely sat.
It was the very first thing that Poker Go ever did.
I remember that.
It was they rebooted Poker After Dark as a 6-hand of sit and go. Happened to ship it. Just, no big deal. Me and Nikki Schulman got heads up.
You and Nick, right?
Yeah.
That was the last time Matt Berkey won on live stream.
Only fucking tournament I ever won in my life. 6-max sit and go with Mattisau and Kasuf. JRB, David Williams, me and Schulman. Would have never guessed Schulman and I would get heads up.
Oh, man. What was I about to say? Oh, so the only Kasuf story I have is like I was playing this summer, I believe it was, and he was at the table over from me. I just hear some guy going off and just like nonstop talking. And usually I'm pretty loud, so I'm like normally whatever. And I feel like he got like into something like this lady got into a little argument or something. I looked over and I was like, my God, he hasn't shut the fuck up for like at least an hour and a half. It's just like ongoing.
It's
play, I guess.
It's tough. It's very exhausting. I guess this is probably a good time to remind everybody, if you want to be like the tortoise and bag piles of chips yourself, we have an MTT Academy coming up. Nope, that's a lie. That's the Poker Out Loud Academy. We'll get to that one next. The MTT Academy is May 24th to the 27th. Little warm up before the WSOP. This will be instructed mostly by Matt Hunt, as he is our tournament guru.
I think that got changed today, didn't it?
To what?
The tortoise?
Oh, Lamanna's leading it?
Lamanna's lead instructor now.
Yep.
Oh, that's fine.
Matt Hunt's my sidekick.
Sure. Let him do all the grunt work. So if you guys are interested in that, head to academy.solveforwhy.io or hit #academy in the chat. It'll take you to the link. Click the banner up top. That's for the MTT one. We also have a Poker Out Loud Academy in April. This will be our final Poker Out Loud Academy of the year. We're going to switch back to the old format for the second half of the year. Plan will be to run 1 or 2 of these a year for re-attending members, people who've gone through the normal version first. But that's April 15th to the 18th. So if you want your shot at playing Poker Out Loud effectively and going through 4 days of instruction, that will be the ticket for you to buy. So head to academy.solveforwhy.io if you want to check that out.
Yeah, speaking of academies, shout out to Jesus Maldonado. He former Academy member, bagged also.
Wow.
In this, fan of the pod, said he listens every day. Nick Seward, who does some work for us, he's also in there. He's at my table tomorrow. That'll be fun. So, we got some Solve for Why people in the mix here.
In the fucking mix,
let's
baby.
Go. Let's just make it an all Solve for Why final table.
Wow.
Solve for Why and Solve for Why adjacent.
Yes.
God.
All right.
Let's do it then.
Like I'm, you say that, and I just have a hard time rooting for Conrad because, you know what? Fine.
I don't want you to root for me.
No.
Do you realize if you don't root for me, I'm going to make every dollar? Everybody that you root against just wins.
Why does he get so loud?
It's just his personality.
It is, man.
Every time someone tries to even talk to this man, it's just sheer screaming.
Well, stop talking to me then.
Landon and I are long overdue for just a twosome podcast.
Yeah, I
Thursday?
think so. Tomorrow.
Yeah. Looks
Yeah.
like it's just going to be us, man.
It
You
is.
and me.
I won't be here Friday. Yeah. So.
You and me in the cage.
Another strat chat, huh?
Wow, there's a bunch of strat
No,
chats
strat
this
chats
week.
today.
I like
Tomorrow
strat
will
chat.
be TBT. We'll do a
Throwback
little
Thursday?
throwback. Yeah.
TBD.
We'll throw it back.
Speaking
There
of
was-
to be determined, man.
it's doing okay.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching, liking, sharing, because it's staying in the algorithm.
It is. It's been averaging 500 views per hour for
Yeah.
like the last 5 days consistently.
That's great. That means people are watching it. They're liking it.
being
I've heard
suggested.
great. I've heard great feedback from it. So
Yeah, really appreciate everybody out there.
Shout out to
I hope
Pigtails.
Oscar. You know, I
shout out to Oscar.
nobody really knows any follow up with Oscar, mainly because he just wants to stay private. And I hope that he sees it posted on the YouTube and sees all the like warm comments that are there for him. There's a couple negative ones, but like, you know, whatever. People are going to talk shit.
There's gonna be
But in general, like it's a lot of support for him. It's a lot of people commiserating with him and relating to him. I hope he sees that feedback because, you know, we wanted to do a follow up with Oscar. We wanted to have him on the pod. He's just
I'm
like,
so glad that you just showed Berkey getting fucking rocked right there.
He just randomly
That
showed
was a-
where he got rocked.
That was a good pitch, Berkey. Just gotta get it down a little bit.
yeah, good pitch right down the fucking dick.
Wow, the amount of you look so sad.
Well, giving up home runs is no fun, man.
I know. You're
Especially to your rival on a minor league field.
why you gotta do him like that, bro? Gee, damn.
I know.
Not him. It's Pigtails. They put me in the fucking movie like that. Gotta
But of all the
have the whole
clips we're
world see.
guapo to show, it's that one.
Good timing. Good timing. But yeah, I mean, I hope that he sees all that feedback so that maybe we could do a proper follow up at some point. But for anybody who's interested, like, I'm pretty sure he's just like still grinding, playing underground games, still lives in New York City, just, you know, doing his thing, getting by. I think he's probably still very much on the risk averse side of things, very much not super interested in game theory. And, you know, we can kind of talk about that a little bit today as we get into the topic of discussion, the bigger topic of discussion, which is the notion of being a field player, understanding like where you can actually execute with clairvoyance or the ability to know your opponent's hole cards or most likely holdings. But prior to that, there was a little bit of a funny incident that happened yesterday, or I guess this was 2 days ago because it was the circuit main event at Planet Hollywood. One Francis Anderson went on break as the chip leader. This is a color break, so he took a picture of his stack. I recommend everybody does this.
Always.
It's very, very important. Too often chips go missing.
It's also a humble brag that you're the guy that's collecting all the chips.
That's also true. So he comes back and he notices that he's short 25,000 chips, and he has a photo of his stack. So he takes it to the staff, demonstrates that he's clearly short, and they said, okay, we'll go back and check the tape. Now, it's kind of shitty for him because now he has to play down 25K while they check the tapes, and that's not a fast process.
Right. He was at my table actually yesterday.
Okay.
And he was talking about this. Yeah, he said that I don't know how long it took him, maybe an
About
hour.
40 minutes, he
yeah,
said.
40 minutes. And
Or 25 minutes, sorry.
he's just like, man, like what happens if I double up right here, you know, or something like that? Now I'm just out 25,000
well,
chips.
it's a very interesting thing because strategically, if you're correct, which I'm sure he is because he knows how to count chips, what happens if you bust because you have 25K chips less and you play your stack differently?
Yeah,
Right,
or like his
exactly.
point was like, what if I
Yes.
get into a big pot with somebody who has me covered?
Right. That's what he said too. Yeah.
And then he busts, and then he's like, wait, I'm going to sit here and wait for my 25K chip.
Right. What happens at that point?
Well, he was talking more so like if he doubles up or whatever. But
Yeah, but think about it in the inverse.
yeah, no, of course. You could definitely bust too. So anyway, they go to the tapes and they see what happens. And apparently somebody on break walked up to the table and just asked the dealer, like, you know, what are they playing here? Which did the dealer not answer? Because everything that happens thereafter
Right.
would indicate that the dealer just like did not acknowledge what was going on. But the guy took a 25K chip after getting a response, or while
no
he
cash
was
value.
right, while
25K
he
chip.
was prompting the dealer to speak to him, and later came back to the casino and tried to cash in at the cage, thinking it was worth 25K.
I mean, this guy obviously has like never played, doesn't know anything about poker.
No, of course.
Right.
Yo,
Where was the tournament being held? Was it like on the gaming floor or
It
something?
was right there. Yeah. It was like, so, I don't, you probably haven't been to the Horseshoe since the new,
No.
Yeah. So like they opened up a new poker room. It's called the Hall of Fame Poker Room. And then outside of the poker room, they set up all the tables, similar to how the Wynn does it.
Okay.
Right?
It's right there at the entrance of the
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's,
I know what you're
it's
talking
just,
about.
there's just a they put up a rope or a rail, and I mean, it's very easy for someone to just like walk through, and anybody
Sure.
from the floor.
Yeah.
Out on the floor.
It's-
It's like, here's the tables, and then there's the hallway, and then
What do we
there's
got to
the
do to get
gaming
Bally's to become a non-smoking, or not Bally's, I guess now Horseshoe, but to become a non-smoking casino, because, or at least that area that you have to pass through going from Paris to Horseshoe.
Yeah, it is kind of
It
brutal.
was so brutal during the summer, and if like they're playing where you're describing,
It's
I
even
understand
worse.
why everybody was saying it's smoky.
It wasn't that bad, but I mean, it's not like
So if you're on the side
Going
toward
to the Wynn.
the cashier, if you're in any of those, it's horrible because they have the Keno and the
Okay.
stuff like that
Oh,
over
yeah,
there,
yeah.
and you can smoke right there.
okay. Where
So-
I was, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I was talking to the cashier as this was like fucking this absolute stinks, reeks of smoke right there, and I'm just like, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't stand this shit.
Yeah,
Like,
I
it's
don't.
bad.
I don't really know if there's anything they can't. I mean, they could just not make it non-smoking, but they're just not going to do that. It's just like
and
that's just like a not.
well,
a thing
I mean,
that they would
most casinos have rectified this.
do. No, they have.
Yeah, God, yeah. There's
The only casino.
it's
in
kind of like the
Vegas-
opposite, where
the-
it's now like
The only casino in Vegas that's non-smoking is Park MGM.
no, yeah, fully non-smoking. But most casinos now are like sectioned off rather to being smoking and non-smoking.
I mean, even no, it isn't
I don't
because
think
even
so,
like at the
no.
Wynn, you can smoke anywhere.
No, like you go.
Really?
Yeah.
It's funny because if you go to, you feel like you're at Red Rock, it's all smoking, and then like if you want to play like they set aside like 4 like video poker machines that are it says non-smoking at the top of it, so you can't smoke when you're sitting at that exact machine.
Like they
But it means nothing. Yeah,
they rectified it like the
Right.
slot set
Yeah.
way because like there's some that are smoking area,
It's just-
non-smoking
It
area,
kind
but
of
like
depends, right? Because you like the Wynn is not non-smoking, but it's not smoky there because not too many people who are there are smoking, right? So
I
like,
imagine then it's just like their ability to have better ventilation.
better ventilation.
Yeah.
It's super low ceilings.
that's the other thing
Right?
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Wynn has super high ceilings,
Right, exactly.
And like,
Yeah, they have way better ventilation, way better higher ceilings. But like, yeah, when
Because
you're,
the
when you're
Aria's not smoky, the Venetian's not smoky, the
Right.
Wynn's not smoky,
Yeah, yeah.
Bellagio's not
Right.
smoky. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's a problem.
Yeah.
To the point where I was pretty sure that like they had separate
yeah,
sections.
Horseshoe has one of the like the shortest ceilings.
and it's the thing about the
Lowest.
smoke, man. It's literally right there. Like there's a bunch of people just smoking cigarettes right in the Keno.
I also
area.
think
So
there's
it's
more
like,
people. Yeah, the like more people smoke at Horseshoe than do like at Wynn. It just seems like I just see more people smoking.
Yeah, I think yeah. I wish they would figure something out though.
I mean,
It kind of sucked.
yeah,
It
sounds
is
pretty shitty.
crazy. It's 2023, and it's like
Well, it's also pretty shitty too. Like if somebody
how
could,
do this? No offense, smokers out there, but how do you have the power over? Like, well, it should
Yeah.
be, it
Well,
should
'cause
be
they're
non-smoking.
gambling.
And then, yeah,
nah,
I know.
but that's dumb. Like Vegas has changed so much with those regards. Like it doesn't offer the free perks the way that it used to. But like you have to kind of jump through hoops to get free drinks even at this point.
Yeah.
Like that whole notion of I want to keep gamblers happy and allow them all these. Is it really that big of a deal if you're talking about maybe 10 or 15% of your clientele?
Yeah.
Like they're obviously
I
in
would
the,
like to see,
in the
'cause-
vast minority.
Because Park MGM,
You know what it
they made
is.
it non-smoking.
No, I know what it is.
What is it?
It's that the high rollers that come in are mostly coming from China
China,
because you're
smoke.
not allowed to gamble there, and the smoking culture there is like
Yeah.
way more
Right.
more prominent than it is here.
I would like to. I mean, we obviously would never be able to figure this out, but I would push back that more gamblers smoke than don't smoke. Like
I mean, I would
slot
happily just happily bet that.
slot machines and stuff like that.
There's just no way you're going to find any. I don't think you could find any subset of Like you couldn't really filter for any generic thing and find a concentration of more smokers than not. I don't think.
Yeah, people belong to cigar clubs.
Okay, fine, but like I'm saying, you couldn't say like more men smoke than women, or sorry, more men smoke
I get
than
what
don't
I know
smoke,
what you're saying.
right?
Yeah.
Like it's you're just not it's not a common practice anymore. It's not something that you're going to find the majority of a group or any subset doing. Like yes, gamblers smoke more than non-gamblers, almost certainly, but the majority of gamblers smoking is like that's out of pocket. It just has to be.
I'm just saying more than. Yeah,
Yeah, more than non-gamblers for sure.
But it's definitely
not going to be the majority.
Closer. I don't know. Talking about wild situations, though. Let's talk about my my little discourse the other day at fucking the Venetian. So Ralph Massey was sitting.
Oh my god.
Ralph Massey's at the table. He's having some discourse with the dealer. Apparently, they've had some back and forth in the past. And I just turned to the dealer. I was like, you know what? You really don't like him? Give me aces, give him kings, and run that shit clean. I look down in my hand. Dude, I have aces. It gets to fucking Ralph. He's all in. I'm just like, yo, this has to be a fucking joke. Like, I'm just like, this can't be real, right? I was like, yo, he really hates you. And he's like, no, he fucking really does. And he flips over the king.
That's unbelievable.
Dude,
and it ran out clean.
Yo, I literally shaked for like 45 minutes.
So now we're just going to talk about how Venetian's hiring mechanics. Like, what the fuck's going on here?
Yo, no,
I think Brewer responded with like what the math was. It was like 1 in
yeah.
46,000 or something like that.
God,
yeah,
that's amazing.
dude. What we're here to talk about today: manifestation, guys. All you got to do is manifest it. If you put the right power,
I hate you.
the right.
I fucking hate you.
Can you guys
hate you
start
so
that
much.
right now, all of us, for my day 2 tomorrow?
It's such copium. Like it's just man.
Yeah, I needed somewhere to,
All right.
Honestly, though, if a manifestation idea allows someone to have a different perspective shift and see more good than bad, then sure,
Okay.
that's a little different, right?
So this
love this.
is where I struggle with this whole secret nonsense.
You used to love The Secret.
Don't tell anybody my secret.
Yeah, because I was also an idiot. I was 21 and I wanted to not be broke.
Rude.
It seemed like
oh
wishing.
wait, we can just control what
It seemed
card's
like
gonna come
wishing
if we,
really fucking
if we
hard for
think it.
things was a good idea.
No, I feel like we need to have this segment with Chewy.
I
Wow.
would love to have this segment. Well, here's the thing.
He's
Chewy
in
would be
Paris
very
right now, though.
reasonable, and I'm trying to be reasonable, but my logic brain... At 21, my emotional brain would win out. At 41, my logic brain wins out.
We need
And
a
it just can't.
defender of that situation.
I'll defend it to a certain degree, but I'm going to defend it the same way that I would a placebo effect, right? Like, I do think that there is a lot of power that's very undiscovered with the mind. The mind is very unexplored. We don't know shit about it. We know more about deep space than we do the human brain. So what ability we have to actually dictate outcomes in our life, what control we actually have over our consciousness and the reality around us, it's all up for debate. And I'm not going to be the one to try to say that, like, I know for sure that I'm in control or I'm conscious or I'm not conscious. I have no fucking clue, man. Leave it up to the...
Therefore I am.
Sure. Leave it up to the neuroscientists. Leave it up to the Hubermans of the world, the Sam fucking Harris's of the world. Like, let them figure it out. I don't know. Okay. I'm interested in it. Annika Harris wrote a book, Consciousness, that I think is a must read for everybody. It's incredible. But it doesn't give you any more answers. It just allows you to understand more perspectives, right? So along those lines, like, certainly we are able to, our brain controls our body to a certain degree, and like we're able to get forward momentum in certain ways if we reprogram the way we think. So I'm all for the power of positivity. I'm all for
#positivity.
I'm all for being mindful of the best case scenarios and the outcomes that could come from it, and planning for those types of things. But I draw the line at truly convincing yourself that you can control the uncontrollable.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, you're wrong.
I
Go
think,
on.
I think
All right, you know what?
Go on.
All right, you know what? I'll just show you. You ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Lamanna is going to come top 18 tomorrow.
That's it.
Well, I can't go crazy here.
Right, he can't go crazy because he actually cannot control anything.
The problem is I can't control it for you, so I just threw something out there.
But I can control it for me.
Yeah, I mean, but the problem is you have to really think about it. Like him, no shot.
All right.
He's
let's
no
say
shot
we'll
at
just
this.
get to top 5 and we'll do an ICM chop.
I think my issue, honestly, now looking at it from one way or the other, like full control, lack of control, just comes from a sense of ego, right? Where you think you have a better answer than something else.
Yeah.
But we don't actually have the proof, or maybe whenever we'll get the proof. That's okay. But having one hard stance saying this is or is not fact is egotistical.
Yeah, I think that the reason why I've probably swung so hard in the direction of it's important to relinquish control in areas where it's clear we don't have any is having spent the last 6 years training and teaching people who are very much of the opposite mindset of they're so beaten down by believing that they can control the uncontrollable that variance preys upon them in a way where when good things happen, they believe it was based off of their skill. And when bad things happen, they believe it's the world conspiring against them. And it's really challenging to teach a strategy to somebody who is pre-programmed to believe that all the variables in their environments are actually fixed based off of how they're currently thinking, the physical actions that they take, like if they breathe too heavy, like they legitimately believe that every single decision that they make had a bearing on this outcome, not recognizing that the deck is fucking random. And that there are just some things that are insurmountable. Like that ace was always coming on the river. It's the guy who goes, what if I had jammed? It's like, well, sir, we were 10 pots deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if you would have jammed?
Like, would you ever jam there in your life? No.
Like, of course I would have folded because it would be ridiculous to shove.
I actually saw someone jam like 10 pots yesterday. It was wild.
The 10-pot jam on the river is a thing.
No,
actually, even on the turn.
This was on the flop. It was actually...
On the flop's a little gangster.
Yeah, it was like a...
Jack 10X, flush draw?
Pretty close. 10-9X. And he was in the big blind who called a raise. And it like they were both like had over 100K at like... It had like 100 bigs, right? And it was just like normal C bet, all in. I'm like, he just has 9-10. He just has 9-10 like every day. Like he said he was like, you're behind. The other guy tanked forever and folded and said he had 2 clubs on the board. He had king, queen of clubs.
Well, you don't really have a choice.
A gutter and a flush draw.
Gutter and a flush draw.
And he folds?
Yeah. But like the only thing that makes sense for this guy to jam here, who's like plays like, you know, he's playing well. Like
anyways,
normal, not doing anything crazy. But
back on track with the control lack thereof. I think there are things that are in our control, call it reacting to winning or losing all-ins, which can change the way you play from a mental standpoint. But I don't think I lean on your side when it comes to I can control this run out, and this iteration of the universe is based off of how I think.
Yeah,
that would be relatively egotistical.
I think that makes it very challenging, right? Because it's very blurry where that line starts and ends as far as like what is within our control and what's not. So I think you touched on a very kind of sensitive topic around anybody who plays this game seriously. And that's the notion of at what point have I allowed my emotions to overcome my ability to think logically and execute the strategy that I know is winning. And the reason why that becomes so gray is because our knowledge is so poorly defined when it comes to the depths of this game, right? So automatically out of the gate, if you play this game seriously, I don't care if you are a beginning recreational or you believe that you're one of the best in the world and completely elite, no matter what, you're already leading with ego and selling to yourself to some degree that you have vision over how the game is supposed to work, right? A good example of this is Galfond tweeted yesterday or today. I think it was today. He tweeted something to the effect of, even if you're primarily an exploitative player, an understanding of GTO is critical when playing against anybody who studies. If you don't know what basic strategy looks like for your opposition, how will you how will you hand read based off of their decisions to bet or the size that they bet? And we can dig into that a little bit more because I don't necessarily think that that's completely true in live, just because we are capable of intuiting some sort of like data through observation. It's just going to be rather inaccurate. But Hunt quote tweeted this, and his response is more so what I want to speak to for this portion of the discussion. He said, I see this response all the time along the lines of GTO is useless against weak players. How do you know they're weak players if you don't know what GTO looks like? And I think that point is pretty relevant, right? Because it's now creating this hard divide where in order to qualify or in order to be a qualified voice as to say whether or not something is good or bad, you actually have to have a metric to judge it against, right? And that's actually pretty profound when you think about it, because for decades, think about the Mattisals of the world, the Hellmuths of the world. I got called by this idiot from Northern Europe, honey.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're making their basis strictly off of how they understand and see the game. And they're assuming through ego and arrogance that their knowledge based off of sheer experience and experience alone is greater than the knowledge of somebody else playing across the table from them, regardless of their experience or better understanding of the game. It's why there's such a pushback against these profound tools like solvers and things of that nature from that camp, because now there's a machine that says, well, actually the way you've been thinking about it's all wrong. And that's a tough pill to swallow if the only way that you're viewing the game is through the lens of I must be right, therefore, and building a strategy.
Right. The difference in a solve strat, when we talked yesterday about principle and practice, is the solver can change how you think principally, which can be a tough pill to swallow if you only look at experience alone, where you've had results and have had W's by doing what you've been doing. And then the solve says, well, principally, it actually works this way. And now you have to sit there and say, am I wrong? And do I have to look at the game differently? Or disregard it completely and have that arrogance of, I know better than this thing. I've won so much. The solver would never win as much as I've won.
Right. And the problem is that there's truth to both, right? Because the feedback loops aren't clean in poker by any stretch. Winning is not indicative of knowledge or talent. What was that?
You moved the table.
Jesus Christ. I thought somebody was knocking. Yeah, so like winning is not necessarily indicative of knowledge or talent, and losing is not necessarily indicative of lack thereof, right? Like the deck just kind of chooses whenever you zoom in on any small sample set and say like, are you a winner or loser at this game? It's like, well, volume is the only thing that can really dictate the answer to that. And even in some instances like live poker, that's not even necessarily true.
Yeah, I remember running an ROI calc with some friends, and if you have a 40% ROI playing 2K ABIs live, you could just be break even / losing for 3 years over a 1500 MTT sample.
Yeah.
You can just lose for 3 years and you're actually a very good player.
Yeah.
What do you say when people say something like, how do you know the solver is right? Because you have to put in the response of the other person for the solver and how do you know that that's right? You're just making an assumption of what the other guy will do. So how can you say that the solver is correct in the way?
I think the real answer to that is that correct is the wrong term. And you actually have to look at it from the principled standpoint versus the practical standpoint. And there's probably a gradient of correctness in both.
Yeah.
Where the solver has some sort of ideas as to what works principally, and then being able to use that practically, and then actually looking at it practically and thinking about how it works principally in order to make decisions.
That's very well stated, I think.
Does the solver have more or less bracelets than 12?
What does that mean?
You mean 16?
He has 16?
Hellmuth has 16?
Yeah, he has 16, and the answer is more.
My God. Oh, yeah, RTX.
I mean, what are you talking? There was 100 bracelet events last year. You don't think more than 16 people who study won?
I mean, I didn't mean it in that sense.
I don't care how you meant it. I know what you were trying to say.
Don't you rain on my parade?
I think Landon's point is very well stated there.
Like correct is a lie is sort of where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what needs to be understood whenever we're talking about game theory, and this is why I want to push back a little bit about what Phil wrote and less so Matt's response, because I think Hunt is largely correct that you don't get to be a voice of reason to decide what's good and bad if you don't have any idea of like what the principles driving good and bad are, which is EV. But the reason why I would push back a little bit against Phil is because our ability to actually unravel this game. So understand that like if we looked at poker from the end point backward, right? So the last point in the game tree, the last node, and we worked our way back and populated the tree out that way, there would be an exact perfect strategy for every single hand that you're ever dealt, every single situation, every single hand. There would always be a perfect move, and that would be true equilibrium. So there would be a perfect strategy, counter strategy for every single decision if we made it a perfect information game.
And EV would just run at 0 at the end of it.
Yes, correct. That's why it's a zero-sum game, right? Like, so if we took away the imperfect information aspect of it, everybody turned their cards face up, there would be a perfect decision for every single hand counter strat, right? But the game wouldn't exist. It would just break immediately. There is no game.
It'd be
right?
tic-tac-toe.
Yeah.
It's like saying if you played chess and everyone said what their strategies were and where they're going to move, it would end in the draw.
Or Brian's point in a simplified version is tic-tac-toe is the perfect example, right? Like as the board populates, you know precisely what the next move
Right.
is. And
Yeah.
it's just
Like
a matter of will
Berkey
they make an
and I
error.
played 100 games of tic-tac-toe, it all ended in tie every time.
It should, yes.
Should. Until
right?
one of us made a mistake.
And that's the thing. It's like you're just anticipating an error, right?
Yeah.
So I put X in the lower left-hand corner, you put O in the middle, and it's like now it's just an anticipation of like, okay, well I know his next move is supposed to be, upper right-hand corner or something like that. I don't remember. If I saw the board, I could see it, but
Right, yeah.
whatever it is, and then I don't go there, and now immediately you say, okay, I know that at worst I can play to a tie, or I could potentially play to a win because he missed this, whatever.
For what it's worth, you said that if you played 100 games, that they would all end in a tie. No, it would all end in you guys screaming at each other.
Probably.
100.
We'd find a way.
110% every single game. I'm sorry, this light is killing me right now.
Okay.
What the fuck is wrong? Look at him.
Yo, my head is killing me right
Hey,
now.
he's
This
here.
light.
Turn the light off, man.
here,
You
man.
have a goddamn computer screen in front of your face, or whatever this is. Like, what are you, Grandma Nella? Like,
I'm dying right
out on
now.
a golf course?
What is that?
Want these glasses?
I'm so
Yeah,
dying right now.
Please, give him the glasses.
Tortuga
Every
glasses.
time somebody has
Now you got me saying Tortuga.
an eye or headache problem, they get
That's
these.
how it starts.
They get the legendary glasses.
That's how it starts. One other person acknowledges his idiotic
Dude, you
nonsense.
You look fly as fucking this.
I look like a baby tortilla.
Yeah, you look good, man. I think you should bring this to the series this summer.
I'm gonna bring him the fucking win today.
Yeah, let's go.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Man, that used to be high fashion.
So
Used to be.
I want to spin this conversation a little bit into white magic, and talk about like the notion of clairvoyance, right? And I'm gonna come at this from a different angle, I think, than may be expected, because I wholeheartedly believe in clairvoyance. And Landon and I discussed a hand yesterday where I didn't get paid off in a spot where I felt I should have, but I was kind of explaining to him like there was literally nothing I could do. We knew his hand, and I was off by a pip when it was all said and done, but it just doesn't matter. Like, I know precisely what his hand is. I expect certain actions for him to take with said hand, and when that doesn't happen, the only thing I can do is put more money in the pot and just hope he calls, right? So the hand played out as such where I was playing No Gamble, No Future yesterday, which will air in a couple months, but Matthew's what's his last name? Matthew Steinberg, who is he's in the gas trading industry, so it's like a wealthy recreational player. He opens under the gun to 3.5x and has been playing relatively snug. Two people call. I think Ellie Alezra calls and maybe Eric Hicks calls on the button. I'm in the small blind with 2 queens, red. I 3-bet large, so it goes like 700 call. I make it. Or sorry, we were playing. I was in the middle blind. We were playing straddle. Is that right? Because I made it 5,500. No, yeah. So it was 700 call, 100, 200. I was in the small blind. I make it 5,500, which is a huge 3-bet. We're like 65K effective. Daniel folds the big blind. He calls, everyone else
Like
folds.
28 bigs.
Yeah, big. That's why I was trying to think if I got it right or not. But he calls, everybody else folds. It's like, okay, well, he opened under the gun and called a big 3-bet, which is what I wanted because I have queens. But also, like, that range is going to be pretty snug. So flop comes like 9, 7 deuce, 2 spades. I don't have a spade. I bet 75 into like 13-ish. He raises to 16-5.
How deep?
We have pot or like 80% pot behind. And I think the only two options that you have here are to call or jam, obviously. But I also don't think that like he has many flush draws. And the problem with jamming is I think that he has some traps with aces and kings because I 3-bet so large. And I also think that like because he is an inexperienced player, he's going to just fold. Because my read on him was that he was risk averse. So I think he'll just fold jacks and tens now. And that becomes a big problem if when I jam, he calls with better and folds worse, right? Especially when I don't think I need to protect against the spade or over cards or anything like that. Like I don't ever think he's just going to show up ace, king, 1 spade here or anything along those lines, right? So I just call. Turn is like a 3 rainbow or a non-spade rather. I check. He checks back. Obviously now I definitely have the best hand. He's certainly in that jacks and tens range. River is another 7. Spades miss. So 80% pot. I obviously jam. He tanks for a very long time with 8s and the 8 of spades and folds. And, you know, Landon and I were kind of discussing it before we knew that he had 8s. And I was explaining, like, you know, I know for a fact that his range is 10s through aces. And he doesn't have aces and kings very often, right?
They just got those in on the turn.
Oh, sorry, I meant on flop when he raises. We're just discussing the flop decision because Landon was trying to make an argument for clicking,
Right.
just to take the initiative back and then jam for a smaller pot size bet on the turn. And I think that that's valid against a thinking player. But I think like what he is not sensitive to, being an online guy, is that the field player is always taking action for information. So where we take action for value and equity denial, like first and foremost, and then information being a byproduct, the recreational or the new player who is like Matt played well. He understands range construction pretty well. He understands like equities, and he didn't make any errors in those two realms. And that's a winning formula. You know, you don't need to know game theory if you understand like how equities run and how ranges interact with one another. That's kind of good enough at most levels. So he wasn't making any big egregious errors. And the thing is now that flop raise is to protect from me just having like, you know, ace, king, ace, queen that's c-betting. And now he has to make tough decisions on the turn when overcards fall. So he's trying to like protect his hand, but he's 100% folding to a jam. And that's obviously clear when everything misses and I shove river and he has a clear bluff catcher and folds, right? If I click, I'm very certain he's also probably just folding to that because he doesn't put a lot of value into his hand. The value of his hand in his mind is picking up the pot uncontested versus overcards.
Yeah.
And when that fails, total shutdown mode. So we have complete clairvoyance, albeit we were off a pip. But I don't think that changes too much. 8s are the same as jacks at that point. It's not like I'm ever shoving 10s here,
Right.
you know? It's not like I ever have a 9 and I'm jamming for value. So it's like he has this tiny little subsection of hands that all play identically, but are never ever committing any more money. And now it just becomes a position of like, how do I benefit then from being totally clairvoyant in this spot? And the answer is instead of folding ace king to jam it, right? I would just 3-bet jam ace king on flop, always.
Yeah.
Because he's going to overfold. Like that's exactly where we've positioned ourselves. The reason I'm able to be clairvoyant is because he has an imbalance that is very obvious and apparent when ranges are tight. And the natural adjustment then is one side or the other of my hand range has to benefit from that.
Right.
In this instance, it's not my value. My value suffers.
When it comes to playing better or worse competition from the sense of principled study, when you're able to diagnose where someone is or have the hand class in mind, you then have the ability to solve for what the best action is with your hand is.
Right.
Because you are still disguised while they are vulnerable.
Right.
And that's what principle theory protects you from.
Correct. Exactly. There was another clear spot of it where I was playing against Daniel in a blind versus blind scenario. I limp 5-4 off, he checks. The caveat to this is it was a double straddle. And Hicks thought that Daniel had raised under the gun over my straddle. So Hicks completed from the 200, calling 600 more, thinking he was facing a min raise under the gun, and vocalizes that. He goes, "Oh, I thought that was a raise." So then I complete, and Daniel goes, "Oh, you thought it was a raise?" Like as if, you would have called a raise from that spot. And he goes, "Okay," and checks back. Now the board comes ace, queen, 4, rainbow. Hicks leads for half pot. I call, and then Daniel min raises to 3K. So it goes 1,500 call, min raise. Hicks folds. Daniel always has a queen.
Yeah.
I mean, his best hand is queen 4, but I block that. He never, ever, ever has an ace because, the meta behind all of this was like he was just massively blowing up every hand, like playing 100% VPIP.
He was no gamble, no future.
Yeah, and also it was the stand-up game. So he and I are standing at this point. So like he has every incentive in the world if he has an ace to just like go for it.
Yeah.
So he doesn't go for it. So clearly he never has an ace. The best holding he's ever going to have is queen 4, but he almost certainly just exclusively has a queen. So we've now narrowed his range down to exactly one class of hands. Turn is an offsuit 7, goes check, check. River's a 5, and we have pot and a half behind. And spades had missed. So my thought process was, okay, I miss a bunch of draws here. He has exactly a middle range bluff catcher. I'm all in because that's how I would play my bluffs.
Right.
So I jam, and he's just like, and also it's a stand-up game, so I'm incentivized to like go for the pot a little bit more. So I jam. He thinks for a while, and he's like, "Oh, you know exactly what I have. Like, obviously, I have a queen here. Like, I'm thinking about calling." And then he's like, "I'm going to see it anyway because the rules of stand-up game: you show, you win." And he folds. So I table it and win. And I started talking to him a little bit after. He's like, I wanted to call. Obviously, I was like, "Yeah, I'm sure if I bet half pot, you like always call. Maybe if I bet like full pot, you always call." He's like, "Yeah, probably." And it's like, okay, so what the takeaway there is not that I shouldn't have jams. It's that I should always bluff jam and size differently for my value.
What's your hand?
Right.
Sorry.
Bottom 2. And that's just one of those scenarios where it's like when you are fully clairvoyant, your strategies diverge because each portion of your range will perform differently based off of the imbalance that's coming from your clairvoyance.
Right. It comes down to understanding the wits and wagers and putting more confidence in your wagers when you have more of an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
Where versus someone that's principally studied and wouldn't min raise flop in that situation, they're more disguised overall, so you can't be as confident with a read.
Right, and even going further with that, there were a lot of meta things that took place here that could only happen in the live realm. We're playing a stand-up game that has a bounty on it, which incentivizes aggression. Eric Hicks believes he's calling an aggressive action, vocalizes that. Daniel acknowledges that he thought he was calling a raise and then checks back in a spot where he's incentivized to be over-aggressing by a long shot, right? All of these things are happening at once, and that allows for the clairvoyance. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this was, one, we didn't have a show otherwise. We had nothing else to talk about. But more importantly, there's a lot of credibility to the live field player, right? Like, I think this is largely dismissed because what we see on TV is generally a display of either a game built around complete monkey fish that are just spewing everywhere and there is no strategy. I mean, there is a strategy, obviously, but like, we forgive those who don't play theory against that because we understand exploiting them is just worth more.
Right.
Or we see the elites. We see the high rollers.
Tournaments.
Yeah, we see the Triton
Chadwick,
events.
yeah.
It's Chidwick versus Bonomo versus, Dan Smith. And like all these guys are just like in the streets, and Adamo is somehow the outlier because he's playing like, 10% more aggressive than the solver ever would. But like he's still taking very, very principled theoretical lines, right? He's just finding new mechanics to work into the principles. What they're forgetting about are the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who have never looked at a solver, that are just out there studying their own intuition, right? They're just tapped in to their own intuition and what they've observed.
Yeah, well, they're playing from the sense of what do I think my hand wants to do, and how do I make that happen? Where they have a value hand, okay, bet. They have a hand that they're not sure if they should check or bet. Most people, if they're risk averse, they check, okay? More likely to be lower middle of range. And then sometimes you get trapped or sneak attacked, but on most of the time, the bet sizes that you can choose will allow you to be able to exploit and take advantage of that. Where versus somebody very, very good, they're checking and choosing bet sizes carefully to know that they have good hands and auto folds if they do get raised.
I'm kind of stuck on something.
Good.
Do we have an image of a monkey fish?
Figure it out.
Get on that.
Robl can Photoshop
Would
it.
you prefer the head of a fish and the body of a monkey, or the body of a fish and the head of a monkey?
Honestly, I don't know. I've been really going back and forth in my head. I'm like, what does this thing look like?
I actually think
I think the head of a fish with the body of a monkey.
I think head of fish, tail of fish, body of monkey.
Do we do like a blowfish?
I think head of fish, body of monkey is a more aggressive spewy player, where body of fish, head of monkey is a more passive collie player, a station, if you will.
All right.
Okay.
That's how it works in my mind.
I like that.
You know,
I'm not mad at that.
So there's fish monkeys and monkey fish.
right? The monkey fish is the one just slinging poo with a bass face, right? Like just throwing shit all over the place while he's got the big
Yeah, with the boop,
big
boop,
bass
boop.
face, you know, with the big lips. But the fish monkey. The fish monkey, you know, he's got the fish body. He's just like flapping on the table, just giving you his money one big blind at a time.
Yeah, remember when Hellmuth had that thing of making people animals when they play poker?
yeah, it's in
This
his
is
book.
version 2 of that.
He
Right.
did what?
Right.
It's like the lion, and eagle,
elephant.
elephants.
Oh,
If you mix a donkey in there somewhere, it's just, I mean.
One of
God
the first
knows what could
forums
happen.
I was ever a part of was Donkey Fish Poker.
Yeah, donkey fish.
Wow, what the fuck did you find, man?
I mean,
What the fuck is this thing?
I'm
That
gonna
is
keep it
the
a buck.
scariest thing. I would not want to play that person.
This looks like evil incarnate.
We
Holy
all evolved
shit.
from a single cell organism.
That
we
is
were
amazing.
we were once aquatic.
Did you just Google monkey fish?
This is the evolution. This is the evolution of man right here.
Holy shit.
And some people
It
play
is.
poker like that.
Yeah, exactly. Less fearful. Like with their skin, you know, on the monkey, he looks cuter.
Holy shit.
It don't look good, cuz.
It doesn't look good.
I have nightmares
Cuz is
tonight.
actually a very great example of what we're talking about here when we're talking about the field player.
A fucking legend.
Somebody who's like trained their intuition to lead them. Cuz would never make it in the cash game world because you have to make too many decisions that sacrificing EV on comes back to haunt you, right? Because every pot or every dollar invested needs to return some sort of money in order for it to be a good play, right? Even if you're investing $1 to win 1 cent, that's still a good decision that you've made. You've made money, right? It's asymmetric risk, of course, but like you're still making money. Tournaments don't work that way.
Yeah.
You can invest $1 and return 90 cents, but if you do it in such a way where the variance was on your side and you actually doubled up because of that mistake or whatever the case may be, you just carry your way through. So all he needs to do is be more right than wrong, right? It becomes a little bit more black and white. I know I'm simplifying things. All you tournament grinders out there, I'm not trying to make it seem like they're that easy. Tournaments are more complex than cash. I'll be the first one to admit it. But they also are higher variance than cash, and it's like not even remotely close. That variance plays in the favor of the field player, especially if like your intuition, as you've sharpened it, leans risk averse, leans very conservative. Also, that now gets projected out onto people, right? Like nobody's paying Cuz off.
Yeah.
Because that's why he talks so much. It's to get paid.
Well, it's funny because you like talking about this. A couple days ago, Lily Newhouse posted. It was like 5 ways to improve your improve your play or whatever at the WSOP, and like number 5 was trust yourself, and it was like she. Oh my god. What the hell is
That's adorable.
that?
That's adorable.
It is adorable. Little baby monkey fish. But yeah, no, but like what you were saying is like trust yourself because, if you played this game long enough, years, decades even, your subconscious has built up a database And that database is what is intuition or your gut feeling. Like you've seen this play so many times, and you know like, oh, I just know they have it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like I just know they have it here because you've seen it so many times throughout your career. Like this exact moment.
I think
it's your subconscious telling you.
I think that's the big difference between like Landon's generation and ours, though, is that, or at least for me specifically, like I've had the best of both worlds, where I've had my intuition trained through feel and observation. And that observational data is worth a lot, even though generally we say we succumb to our biases too much. I'm fortunate enough to be the type of person who always leaned aggressive and risk on. So those biases are already pre-programmed to not giving up. And now whenever my instinct or my observation tells me like, no, you should be too tight in this spot because of what you've seen. Imagine how far down the spectrum I have to come in order to shy away from like what my natural behavior wants to do. Right now, I have the luxury of having seen how this stuff plays out at equilibrium and being able to compare and contrast the two and see where the difference is. For Landon, his unconscious competence is trained through sims. His conscious competence is also trained through sims. So there's the sims that are just a part of his total recall, where he can immediately identify board texture and say big bet, right? That's in his conscious competence. It's just right there. Then there's this unconscious competence that he can't really put his finger on why this is a clear bluff spot. Like this is an intuitive bluff spot to him. This is an intuitive spot to go 10% pot. This is an intuitive spot to go 200% pot, right? It's all programmed from things that he's seen maybe only a couple of times in passing running sims, or pattern that he's recognized through a handful of sims, but it hasn't made it to the conscious competence level because he hasn't drilled it. He hasn't been put in the situation enough to confirm it over and over again by rerunning and looking at it, right? But the layers are the same, right? It's just a varying gradient of how much he can actually recall in real time versus how much his body just like intuits, having done enough repetitions of running the sim to say like, trust yourself in this spot. Like your intuition's correct, be aggressive or don't be aggressive. The problem is he lacks the human psychological aspect of it that we can kind of understand as old timey regs, where it's like, yeah, man, but those parameters are very, very different here. Like this guy has already turned his hand face up to you on this exact node, and you're thinking 3 nodes ahead where he's still going to have balance. Yeah. And it's not there.
Yeah, it's a tough thing when it comes to reverting to what works for you, because there are definitely spots in live poker where I'll fold hands I know that are 0 EV in theory because bluffs don't exist enough. But when you're in the gray area of I'm not sure if there's enough bluffs or not, or this spot might be a little bit different for whatever reason, we always revert to what we trust. Yeah. And if I trust the machine and know that a spot's worth 0, it's easier to cope yourself into mixing for a spot that might just be a pure play one way or the other.
Yeah, and somebody else might revert to their gut instinct because they don't have the background that you have or whatever it is, so they revert to the other side.
From statistics, at least from the cash game perspective and like from the detox data, that the risk averse strategy normally loses. So taking the aggressive action on the aggregate, like just looking at spots blankly, should serve you well. Right. But there are also nuanced spots where that's the inverse, where bluffs don't exist enough, or the pot odds you're getting for this size isn't actually worth bluffing or calling, whatever the action may be. But reverting into what you trust is what allows you to make decisions. So if some people have the database of the sims, it's easy to say, oh, I know this is indifferent in theory, I'm going to mix for it, and if I roll high enough, I'm going to call. Where if people don't have that studied, nuanced look, they revert to what they trust, and that's their instinct of, I've called here so many times and I've never won. Yeah. Why would this spot be any different? Yeah. But then the instinct then changes to consciousness when they play somebody that's highly studied, where they know bluffs will exist.
Right.
And you'll see it because Matt or myself will take a line and someone might say, oh, I would fold, but it's you.
Right.
And then they look at you and they know that you're bluffing enough, or they have that inkling that you are finding bluffs, to where they can't just revert to their instinct of, I want to fold every time because I don't win.
Yeah.
Because they've been proven otherwise by seeing bluffs, not just against them, but just as a whole.
Right. I felt like when I was playing yesterday, I was thinking, like, because there was like a handful of good players and a handful of like recreational players at my table, and I was treating them very differently. Right. It was just like, I know, like, when I'm playing against this person, they're going to be, their range is going to be constructed. They're gonna make good bets on the flop, and they're going to be more balanced. So like, I have to keep that in mind. Where the other person is just completely out of balance and don't bluff enough and unconstructed. So it's like you just take a different approach against them.
Yeah, that's the EV exchange, right? The more constructed somebody is, the less EV they're giving away,
Right.
in that regard.
Yeah.
And the less constructed someone is, the more EV they're giving away, in a sense of how quickly can you diagnose and understand where they're at in a hand, or the hand strengths that they're representing, and what's congruent with the bluffs that could exist, and then making wild deviations that, in theory, you're like, oh, of course this is a mixed call or a pure call. But in practice, you face a 2x pot jam from someone that's never 2x pot jam before,
Right.
and you just like
find
start
the fold,
folding
yeah.
hands that look like they're never supposed to fold. But in reality, under the certain constraints, they are.
Right. Exactly. And when you can just make that explosive fold, it's huge.
It's worth tons, because there are spots where you should probably be out of the tournament versus a constructed and
Right,
very
exactly.
good player.
Yeah.
But when there's so much EV to be gathered, you can find it in different spots.
Yeah.
So I guess I have two questions to all of you guys, especially since I think all three of you kind of come from different perspectives. The first one will be for any of you who watched the $1 Million Cash Game this weekend. What do you think about a guy like Robl, who very clearly, at least based off of how he played that specific lineup, was playing way more feel-based than theoretical?
It warmed my heart.
Go on.
It really just warmed my heart watching him play. Like, I don't know. There's just like spots where a solver would just never fold, or like, and he was just like, this is a fold. I'm beat here. I'm folding. And I don't know. Like, without like the nines hand and like the stuff that happened later on in the session due to like the side bet, I was intrigued by his field play.
I mean, he got it wrong in a couple spots too, right? Like, he folded to a big bet from either Patrick or Darkus.
It was from Patrick when he had jacks.
Yeah, he had jacks on a 9 or 10 high board.
Yeah, Patrick had the double block straight with eights and was going to just rifle it off. And then Robl folded jacks. But now we're talking about side bet and then future street playability. He had jacks and a spade. It might just be a good fold, right? And in these sort of situations with new games, new side bets, new sort of things to think about in real time, I think it's what makes the difference between a great player, an elite player, and a world-class player.
Yeah, like
he's thinking on the fly.
Right. I think like it's a perfect example of someone who understands theory versus practice, right? And is able to execute it to the fullest. To like that's why he's so good, because he does understand the what the theory says, but like in practice he's able to make the correct plays contrary to that theory.
Yeah, and it's not going to be perfect because poker's a hard game, and not every decision is going to be perfect.
Right. But maybe we saw a display of him, playing practice versus theory. It may be the best we've ever seen.
It's just
At
like,
least in that sort of situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
it's just like, I feel like I haven't seen it a lot recently.
Yeah,
I
well,
feel
there's
like
a fear of being wrong on camera,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that, like, for somebody of Robl's stature, or like somebody like me who is the face of a training site, there's a lot of additional pressure to play a hand theoretically. The irony is that, like, a lot of the hands that I get most criticized by the public are the hands that I play like the most theoretically sound. Like, that ace king hand is like a nothing whenever it comes to whether it's a decision or not. We're 160 big blinds deep facing a 5-bet shove. Ace king suited is like 100% of the time.
But I think
just
it
a
comes
clear
all
call.
the way back around to like, okay, yes, that is theory, but it's so people think like, okay, in practice this is always a fold. So then, but if you do something very theoretically correct, but then in practice it's such a fold, and then you do the former, then you're going to get criticized.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think in practice versus Al, it's a fold.
I'm
but
not saying
maybe.
that exact situation.
But like, sure, if I call it off there
right.
versus, I'm trying to think like who else was in the lineup. Who would be somebody that like it would just be insane to call off versus? Who's in that lineup?
With
I don't
Days
remember.
King?
Yeah, it was Hicks, Al, the driver,
Kmart,
Kmart.
yeah.
I mean, I'm calling against all of these guys. Maria Ho, like I'm calling versus her. Who am I missing? Like, who the fuck was this game running around? Me?
What the
hell? You can't find the fish,
The
bro.
guy who lost the most.
What the goddamn
find the
hell?
monkey
If you
fish
can't
at the
find the
table.
monkey,
If you can't find the monkey.
What the goddamn hell's going on here? Not for real though. Who else was in the lineup? There were more people.
this guy's there.
I don't think there's anyone that you fold Ace King in that spot versus.
I mean, there had to be somebody in the lineup that
Robbie.
like doesn't. Oh yeah, Robbie. I would fold versus Robbie for sure.
There you go.
Robbie 5-bet jams versus me. I'm 100%
How
fold.
do we forget about Robbie? Jesus Christ.
Well, at the
Fuck you, Berkey.
No, fuck you,
Fuck
Conrad.
off, Berkey.
Yeah, that was.
She likes me now. You're the new ire of her.
She actually didn't say fuck you, Berkey. She said fuck off, Berkey.
She did.
She
and
gave
then
me-
she followed with, "You can go fuck yourself."
Yeah.
Yeah, she gave me a
fuck
straight
off,
up
Berkey.
fuck
You
you,
can go fuck
Berkey. And
yourself.
fuck you, Conrad, at the Horseshoe the other day.
Rightfully so. You're
How
mean.
do you write that? What do you mean, how would I write that? That's what I believe. Fuck you.
Someone cut his mic, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do agree with the Robl thing. I think that like he's rich enough and confident enough, and also doesn't give a fuck about his image to play to the best of his ability. And I think he did put that on display. I think his accurate. I think that was a perfect example of when people say your intuition is too inaccurate to follow. That is a clear 3-day session that we can point to and say you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're wrong. This guy has more experience at high stakes nosebleeds, live specifically, than most anyone else.
Right.
And his reads are all fucking spot on.
Like this is his normal game. Right?
Yeah. Well, not that big, but yeah. And when I say his reads are spot on, I'm not saying like he picked up on a heart rate or something along those lines. I mean, his ability to hand read in these situations was just like dead fucking on.
Right.
Right. You can distill the game down to good hand, bad hand, and if your hand can beat good, bad hand. Right, where he has kings and has a set and knows there's a flush out there and someone chooses big bet. He's like, oh, kings here is actually bad hand. I fold.
Yeah, I mean, it's like set, straight flush all there. Guy still's betting. The crazy thing about that hand, though, is like the sizing. Because Rob did not bet big. He bet half pot.
Yeah.
And he still decided there's not worse value. There just is not any one pair hands in this line. There aren't any 2 pair hands in this line.
Right. It's the difference between not faulting somebody for calling off because of price and then trying to find the reasons why they could find a fold in practice.
Right.
And then it's easier for the floor to make the call with kings and be like, yeah, of course you have to call. And then it's harder to trust that somebody knows what they're doing enough to make that
he
fold.
He's risking looking like a complete fool folding a kings there. Right. And like he just nails it. So I do think that this is it's an aside because it does prove Phil's point. Like he knows theory quite well enough where he also knows how to deviate and how to exploit people who don't know theory nearly as well. And, no offense to Rob, I thought he played great for 3 days, but like he's not going to be the most theoretically sound player. It was really funny. There was a spot where Rob had opened and MJ defended the big blind with like utter garbage. And the board came like Jack 8-6 or Jack 8-5, something along those lines, 2-tone. And MJ checked, and Rob goes, "Do you want me to make the GTO C bet or the Rob C bet?" And MJ kind of joked, but wasn't really joking. And I knew, in my head, as soon as he said that, I go, they're the same. They're 100% the same because in your mind, the Rob C bet is big, but in theory here, big is correct. And MJ just goes, "I don't care. I think they're the same." And he goes, "Okay, I'll make the Rob C bet," and bets big. And I was like, yeah, they're the same. Like you just, you're just unaware. You think GTO C bet here is small, but it's actually not on this texture.
Well, that's the difference between having the theory backbone versus the instinctual guess.
Right.
Where that theory likes big bet, but in a certain spot when it comes to hand classes, instinct might say, oh, this hand needs protection, big bet.
Right.
And theory is actually just on the same page. Like, yeah, you got 10s on 9-8-4. Big bet.
Yeah, exactly. The follow-up to this then is, I don't even want to say the derivative thereof, because I would say Robl is almost a derivative thereof what I'm about to ask. But does this explain white magic?
I think it does. I think it explains the idea of white magic. I don't necessarily know if it's something that can be transferred from one person to another.
Well, that's why it's magic.
Well, that's why everyone has their own kind of magic in that sense, right? Some people are better at the intuitive side. Some people definitely don't have enough experience to start using that to their advantage. And then finding their baseline and trusting in what they believe to be the overlord, right? When it comes to using sims or using your feel is what allows for EV to be exchanged.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Phil is one of the, top players, top Phil players. Like Phil plays, no wonder. His name's Phil. Of course he's a Phil player.
Here's what I'll say real quick, sorry. Like what I'll say about the whole white magic idea, I think the idea of white magic in that sense exists, but there's a difference when you try to look at it through the sense of risk aversion, where you're playing a game that you know from your umpteen years of experience that most people are risk averse and will not go for it. So when big bets go in, you can start folding. Now, when you start playing people that are willing to go for it and start shoveling money in with hands that should and will try to win the pot, using and defaulting to white magic and overfolding makes you get absolutely torched.
Yeah. No, right.
I think that's true in cash. I think it's probably less true in tournaments.
In tournaments, you can be fortunate enough to go play against people that are less willing to go for it.
Yeah,
and that's why you won't see him play a lot of the PGT and no limit events.
Right. I agree with you there. I should qualify. I think that's not true of soft tournaments where people are making big enough EV errors that you never have to take a 0 EV spot.
Right. Why would I take a 0 EV spot if there is a spot in the future at this table where I can win 5 BB?
And I think that probably does.
Mantra. I
think that probably does sum up Phil's MTT strategy pretty well, in the sense that I would imagine in most events where he runs, start to finish and makes a final table, goes deep, maybe wins one, whatever. I would reckon that he probably takes under a handful of 0 EV spots the entire tournament. Like if we were able to look at every single hand and every single decision that we made, if we were able to just upload that to GTO Wizard or some other database and run it through, and then filter for all of the decisions where his hand was 0 EV, I would bet that he folds 100% of the time in those spots, or damn near close, maybe 95%.
Unless he's over it and then wants to take Queen 4 off to the dome against Foxen, and he plays.
But that's not a 0 EV spot.
Right, yeah.
That's not a 0 EV spot. I'm not saying he doesn't take negative edges.
Yeah,
he certainly does.
Yeah.
But he plays a strategy where, whether it's actually true in practice, in his mind, is purely polarizing. He does nothing with the middle of his range. So everything that is supposed to be denoted into middle strong equity that fits into the bluff catcher region or the bluffing region, he all but eliminates it. He tries to get those hands to showdown, and anytime somebody resists, he surrenders.
Right. The idea is to remove indifference from your entire game.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we see is that he's not very.
Then he tells him, "I'm going to get all your chips. You keep doing that, I'm going to get all your chips."
Yeah. And he's not wrong. He can be on the right side of coolers, but what we see is that there isn't a lot of calculation that goes into the bottom of the polarization, right? He's not very well constructed there. It's random, but that randomness gives people fits because that he's so positioned to be at the top, right? It's like he's a dangerous old man coffee, or like a thinking old man coffee type, where the top exists and he plays the top a certain way and it fits into his strategy. And then the bottom is just almost randomly chosen by emotion. Like this particular hand, I feel a certain way, and something in my gut or the stars, or
it's completely out of construction.
Right.
It's
the white magic comes from the bottom of his range.
It's just you don't have it this time. I'm all in. I don't care what my 2 cards are.
Yeah. And that's what we saw with the Queen 4. It's just he's getting beaten down by somebody who just is very calculated and strategic at every decision. And he says enough is enough. I don't feel like he has it this time. Puts in a committing 3-bet, and then goes with that narrative even further to convince himself, I still don't think he has it, even though he jammed.
Right.
I'm going to call.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it worked. He had a deck read.
Listen, I want deck reads more than white magic.
Where do deck reads fall into the clairvoyance realm.
I think deck reads fall into ego, where you want something to happen a certain way because of whatever reason. And I personally don't think I have any control over the deck. Deck is what deck is. So if I have a feeling about it, it's because I am invested.
What if I told you that the deck is actually blank and it's writing itself as you perform your action?
Well, we see that
I would say
they fan the
that's
cards out
not
before
correct.
shuffling it. So.
No, that's only if you believe in time being linear, my friend.
Yeah.
That could have already happened.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Could have already happened.
What are we talking about?
For a future self. This is actually, I don't even know how true this is, but I think this is, I might actually be remembering something from The Secret, so it's probably utter bullshit.
Great.
But I think I remember whatever I saw it from, I think it was like in parallel with the double slit experiment, where this is actually a part of quantum physics, where
this is actually real.
Yeah,
Double slit experiment.
the double slit experiment is real. So it's like basically an atom being shot. I think they use like protons, like light protons.
Electrons.
Or electrons, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Being shot through two slits, when observed, come out in a linear manner on the back wall. And when you remove the observer, they come out as a scatter, or as a wave.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that I recall.
It's like an interference pattern on the back.
Yeah, I think I recall them, speculating something even further, where if time is not a linear continuum, but rather, I guess a circular one would be the alternative, where we can leap forward, back, side to side, and all these other things, then what we're seeing now in the current may just be a byproduct of something that was already undefined in the future and written backward. Basically, like the notion. I think it was also parallel to like hitting a baseball. Like the brain doesn't actually see the baseball.
Right.
It projects an image of it.
Yeah, it's like when you break things down to like the quantum level, then like the rules of the physical world break down. Yeah, they break down. So it's like it's very strange.
I've been saying time's a myth since I was 6.
You have been.
Well, I'm not on time for it.
That's why I'm trying to dunk
Not
it
on
for
time for
one.
a goddamn thing.
You've been late to everything since you were 6?
Listen, I'm only late. I'm only late if you don't observe the 7-minute buffer. And I think a 7-minute buffer is fair for everyone.
You think you've never been?
You think you've ever been within 7 minutes of something? What the fuck?
Of course, I've been more than
this
7
is why
minutes
his time's
late.
a myth, because he thinks being 30 minutes late is being 7 minutes late.
I didn't say.
Delusional.
I didn't say I was
It's all the
never.
same to him.
I didn't say I was never late.
Oh, on average, you're 7 minutes late.
On average, I'm within the
No,
7-minute
because
buffer.
that would require you to be early sometimes, and that just.
I don't fucking know about that.
Yeah,
man.
please play the music. Let's play some fucking cards.
All right. If you guys are paying attention to the Solve for Why TV website, we have a new On Second Thought out this week. This is going to be very funky with the music playing in the background, but we have a tease for that episode that came out this past Monday.
Jace Criswell.
Big blind defense and the subsequent strategies post-flop can be one of the less intuitive aspects of No Limit Hold'em. We're in a compromised position with a wide range of hands that is offered an extraordinary price to continue. We can't just simply defend according to the price, however. What matters more is the width of the range that we're facing the raise from to begin with. Michael finds himself facing an early open and has a cusp hand that in theory should probably just fold pre. This decision may prove costly as we move forward to dicey flop and turn strategy decisions from both players.
So that particular episode is a look at big blind defense and developing check raise strategies, some things that a lot of people struggle with. We do a full season of On Second Thought after every season of Poker Out Loud. I personally think that it's the best product that we offer. It combines the entertainment value and the visuals of Poker Out Loud with the solver work that we get by using Ruse. So by all means, head over to solveforwhy.io. Check that out if you haven't already. That's going to do it for us today. We're going to head out. Probably be back tomorrow, maybe early, depending on how the team works out, if Conrad bags or not. It might just be me and Landon at the normal time. But stay tuned to Solve for Why.
I got some work to do.
And Only Friends socials. We'll update that time as soon as possible. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Peace.
Later.